Here we're dealing with a linear equation which has fractions involved. What you could do is you could find the least common denominator and then treat this as a rational equation. But instead of doing that, I'm going to show you a slightly different method, which is to eliminate the fractions. So how do I eliminate the fractions? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by a number which makes these fractions go away. So what number am I thinking of? Well, for example, if I multiplied both sides by 15, what would happen to the 3/5? Well, 15 over 5 would become a 3, and I'd be left with 9. That would be good. But 15 times 1 over 10 would be 15 over 10, which is still a fraction. Not so good. 15 times 2 is also not a fraction. Good. So in other words, the number that I'm thinking of is some number that will cancel out the 5 and cancel out the 10. And what number would do that for us? Well, there are actually a whole bunch of numbers that would do that for us, but the smallest number that would do it for us is the least common denominator of those two numbers. So the LCD in this case is 10. Again, the LCD is the smallest number that both these guys divide into. Since they divide into it, we won't have a fraction anymore. So what happens? Well, 10 times 3 over 5 times x minus 2 minus 10 times 1 over 10 times minus x plus 3 then equals 10 times 2. Well, again, we picked this number because 5 divides into it. We're not going to have a fraction anymore. 10 over 5 is just 2, and 2 times 3 is 6. 10 times 1 over 10 is just 1. The 10's cancel. 10 times 2 is 20. I took a problem that was complicated for me, and I asked, is there a way that I can make it easier? This guy's easier for me than this guy. So let's distribute to get 6x minus 12. Minus times a minus is plus x. Minus times a 3 is minus 3, and that equals 20. Again, even simpler to deal with, easier to deal with. Let's combine terms. We get 7x over here. We have a minus 12 minus 3, which is minus 15. And that equals 20 on the right-hand side. Isolating the x, we'll do that by adding 15 to both sides. And we get that 7x equals 35. Finally, we can divide both sides by 7 to get that x equals 5. If you're feeling courageous, you might want to try this problem with the alternative method, which I won't be going through, but you should still get x equals 5 as your answer. The alternative method, again, being take the least common denominator, turn this into a rational expression. So for example, the first expression would look like this. Turn each into a rational expression and solve that way. But my method was find the least common denominator. Why? Again, because that number is a number that both these guys divide into. Multiply everybody through by that, and turn it into a linear equation that doesn't have any fractions.